Welcome to this masterclass. Today, we are going to elevate you from a panicking amateur to a calculated, stain-removing expert. Look, if you've ever stared down in absolute horror at a spilled glass of red wine or a pet accident and immediately reached for the nearest bottle of multi-purpose spray, well, you're playing a really dangerous game with your flooring. But today, we're completely eliminating that guesswork. We're replacing panic with a professional methodology, and we're giving you the exact frameworks, the chemical logic, and the extraction systems used by industry elites to flawlessly restore carpet fibers.
Here is the highly structured, professional-grade curriculum we're walking through today. 1. The stain removal fundamentals. 2. The emergency 5-minute response. 3. The professional 2-step system. 4. Complex stain protocols. And finally, 5. Avoiding permanent carpet damage. Let's dive in.
Part 1. The Stain Removal Fundamentals.
Okay, professional execution always starts with a highly accurate diagnosis. And the absolutely crucial point here is distinguishing between a surface spot and a true chemically bonded stain. A spot is just physical contamination. Think dirt or a bit of food sitting loosely on the outside of the fiber. It's superficial. But a stain? That happens when the dyes, acids, or proteins of a substance actively bond with the carpet's actual molecular structure. Your ultimate goal is always to remove the spot before it has the opportunity to cure and lock in as a permanent stain.
Now, identifying the molecular base of the spill dictates your entire cleaning methodology. Water-based spills, things like coffee, juice, or soda, generally require water-based surfactants to lift them. But oil-based spills like makeup, grease, or butter, they actively repel water. They require highly specific solvents or dry powders to break down those lipid bonds before you even think about introducing moisture. If you treat an oil stain with a water-based approach, you won't clean it, you'll literally just spread it deeper into the padding.
Every successful professional removal system balances 4 exact variables to protect the fiber while breaking the chemical bond. In the industry, this is known as the TACT model, T-A-C-T, time, meaning how long the chemical actually sits on the stain to do its work. Temperature, using heat to aggressively speed up a chemical reaction, or conversely, using cold to prevent proteins from setting. Chemistry, deploying the exact right pH to neutralize the spill. And finally, agitation, the mechanical force used to gently loosen the soil. The elites manipulate these 4 levers with absolute precision.
Part 2. The emergency 5-minute response.
The actions you take in the first 5 minutes dictate whether a fiber is saved or permanently ruined. We call this the golden window. This step-by-step emergency protocol dramatically increases your chances of a full recovery, but only if you execute it without panicking. First, identify the material. Second, physically remove the excess. Literally grab a spoon to scoop up thick materials and use paper towels to gently absorb liquids. Third, blot from the outside of the spill toward the center to prevent it from spreading. And listen to me on this, never ever scrub. Scrubbing untwists the carpet yarns and permanently destroys the texture. Finally, apply your chemistry.
So, what chemistry should you use? Notice the logic here. A 1/4 teaspoon of mild dish soap mixed with a cup of lukewarm water. The dish soap acts as a surfactant, which means it safely breaks water's surface tension. This allows the liquid to actually penetrate the fibers and suspend the contaminant without relying on harsh, destructive chemicals. But it is vital, absolutely vital, that the dish soap is clear and mild. If you use brightly colored or ultra-concentrated soaps, you are going to deposit brand new dyes right back into your carpet.
Now, you might be wondering, why not just grab the bleach or the vinegar? Using aggressive acids or bleaches on unknown spills can act as dyes themselves, or worse, cause irreversible color bleeding. Throwing bleach on a red wine stain won't magically clean it. You might just bleach the synthetic carpet fiber itself while leaving that red wine pigment perfectly intact. It's a disaster. In a panic, always stick to the neutral dish soap solution.
Part 3. The Professional 2-Step System. Okay, this is where we separate the elite professionals from the DIYers. Step 1 is physical extraction. Professionals rely heavily on physical extraction using wet/dry vacuums rather than manual scrubbing to pull contaminants out. Once you apply your surfactant to break that surface tension, you have to evacuate the liquid. A small wet/dry vacuum physically pulls the fluid, the soap, and the soil completely out of the carpet pad. I promise you, this is infinitely more effective than just mashing a dry towel into the floor.
But what happens when physical extraction hits its limit? If you've extracted all the physical liquid, but a colored shadow remains, like the deep red of a wine spill or the artificial neon dye of a sports drink, you are now dealing with a true set-in stain.
To fix this, we have to escalate. We must initiate a controlled chemical reaction to molecularly break down that remaining pigment. This is where we use oxidation.
This advanced oxidation system utilizes heat transfer and strict chemical ratios to destroy set-in stains over a 2-hour window. Here's the professional formula. You mix 3 parts 20-volume clear hydrogen peroxide with 1 part household ammonia to create a highly active oxidizing agent. You apply it, cover it with clear plastic wrap, and carefully rest a pot of hot water on top. That heat transfer accelerates the chemical reaction, safely bleaching the foreign pigment without destroying the factory synthetic carpet dye. It is a very high-level technique, but it yields absolutely flawless results.
And here is the step almost everyone forgets: the final rinse. Failing to perform a final plain water rinse leaves a sticky surfactant residue that guarantees your carpet will quickly soil all over again. Think about it. Soaps are quite literally designed to attract dirt. If you leave soap locked in the carpet, it will act like a giant magnet for every single particle of dust and dirt on your shoes, turning a previously clean spot into a dark black patch within a week. Always, always extract with plain, clean water as your absolute final step.
Part 4. Complex stain protocols. Every spill has a specific chemical weakness. This reference matrix maps out the exact chemical countermeasures required to neutralize highly specific complex materials. Take ink, for example. It requires rubbing alcohol to break down its fast-drying dyes. Grease, on the other hand, needs a dry powder like baking soda to absorb the lipids before you even touch it with a solvent. And what about red wine? Well, it responds brilliantly to the heavy carbonation of club soda, which actively lifts the heavy tannins right up to the surface so you can easily extract them. Let's talk about temperature again, because it's a critical lever. If you're dealing with a protein stain, like blood or milk, you must avoid hot water entirely. Why? Because heat coagulates and cooks proteins. If you use a steam cleaner or boiling water on a protein spill, you will essentially bake it into the yarn, creating a permanent, unbreakable bond. Dye stains, conversely, like coffee or wine, often require the slight acidity of vinegar or the powerful oxidizing effect of peroxide to destabilize their color compounds. Now, pet stains are a completely different animal, literally and chemically. Pet stains require biological enzymes because standard household cleaners just cannot break down the tough ammonia crystals left behind by urine. When a pet has an accident, you are fighting both a complex protein stain and deeply set uric acid. Here's a massive pro tip. Using household ammonia or vinegar will actually smell like urine to your pet's highly sensitive nose, which encourages them to remark that exact same spot. You have to deploy a dedicated enzymatic cleaner that literally digests the odor-causing bacteria.
Part 5. Avoiding permanent carpet damage. Execution is absolutely nothing without preservation. The most common DIY failure we see is overwetting, which directly leads to the delamination of the carpet backing and severe hazardous mold growth. When you just flood a stain with a store-bought spray, the liquid forces the contaminant incredibly deep into the carpet pad. The surface might look okay for a day, but beneath the fibers, you are breeding bacteria and literally dissolving the adhesive that holds your carpet together. Have you ever cleaned a spot, thought it was completely gone, and then watched it magically reappear 3 days later? That phenomenon is called wickback, and it proves that the underlying pad was never properly extracted. As the surface of the carpet dries, it acts exactly like a wick in a candle, pulling the hidden, soiled moisture all the way up from the pad back into the visible fibers. This is exactly why professional-level wet/dry vacuum extraction is completely non-negotiable for deep, heavy spills.
Part of being an expert is risk management. Knowing when to stop and consult a specialist is what separates a calculated expert from a reckless amateur. For instance, delicate materials like viscose, often sold as art silk, will literally disintegrate and turn a horrific yellow if they get too wet. If you are dealing with heirloom Persian rugs, major biohazards, or deep structural water damage, put down the spray bottle immediately. That is when you call a professional.
If you remember absolutely nothing else from today, remember this: extraction is always more important than scrubbing. This single professional maxim should govern every single decision you make when treating a damaged carpet fiber. You are not trying to wash the carpet like you wash a dish. You are trying to physically evacuate a foreign contaminant. Scrubbing just pushes the problem around and ruins the texture. Extraction actually removes the problem from the environment. You now possess a professional-grade execution framework. Master these principles, and you will never permanently damage a carpet or rely on ineffective, risky internet hacks ever again. You understand the core chemistry, the 4 TECT variables, the critical 5-minute golden window, and the absolute power of physical extraction. The next time disaster strikes your floor, you won't panic, you will systematically execute. Thank you for joining this masterclass, and I'll leave you with this final challenge. When that next inevitable spill happens, will you have the discipline to follow the system?